The 20th century was one of the most war-torn and bloodthirsty periods in Vietnamese history. We'll start in 1841 when the Indo-Chinese Communist Party brought together several Vietnamese nationalist organizations to form an alliance called the Viet Minh, a league of Vietnamese independence fighters ready to kick those Japanese colonizers straight to the curb and throw them so far out of the country they'll end up in Madagascar. The Viet Minh, led by the Communist Party, began their revolution against the Japanese. And in 1945, when the surrender happened, there was a brief moment when the Viet Minh controlled the entire country when Vietnam was independent. But not for long though, because the French arrived, ready to pummel this communist scourge straight into the ground. France had controlled the territory before the Japanese, and now they wanted it back. For 9 years war raged, until finally the French admitted they had lost and an agreement was made. The northern half of Vietnam would be given to the Viet Minh, the southern half would become a Western ally. In the north and the south of Vietnam, the two ruling parties got into power using elections that contained more rigging than a goddamn pirate ship. But after not even 2 years of peace, another revolution began. The Viet Cong, sponsored by North Vietnam, began their uprising to overthrow the South Vietnamese government. The USA sent in their troops, and after a 20-year-long conflict between the North and the South, the USA withdrew their troops from Indochina, allowing for a communist victory in the Cambodian, Laotian, and Vietnamese civil wars. But still, peace would not arrive in Vietnam, because the Viet Minh who ran Vietnam and the Khmer Rouge who ran Cambodia really didn't like each other, and the Khmer Rouge were worried that the Viet Minh might attack them. So they repeated the age-old maxim, why don't we attack them first, and they invaded Vietnam. Now Vietnam was just so much better than the Khmer Rouge. They mashed their armies like an actual potato. They overthrew the Rouge regime and installed a puppet government. China tried to help their good friend Cambodia by invading Vietnam and capturing several towns. But for a reason that I couldn't find, China suddenly withdrew, declaring that their objectives had been achieved. Throughout the 1980s, skirmishes would continue between Vietnam, China, Cambodia, and Thailand, and what was left of the Khmer Rouge. Finally, in 1991, the UN came in, occupied Cambodia, and organised a democratic election there. This normalised relations between all four of the main powers in this war, and in 1998, after decades of guerrilla war, what was left of the Khmer Rouge forces finally surrendered.